Grade 5, MX18, Lesson 8.8 from the Measurement and Geometry Unit. Hello students and families. This video resource can be viewed as a reminder of learning that happened in the classroom, a review of learning that was missed during an absence, a preview of new learning. Remember, this video cannot replace the math conversations and group learning that takes place in the classroom. If you have questions or would like additional practice, please speak to your teacher. Additional resources are available on the Think Central website. Ask your classroom teacher about how to access this site from home. The student-friendly learning target for this lesson is I can separate a solid figure into smaller figures to solve for volume. Here are some of the Tier 3 vocabulary words that will be used in this lesson. Keep in mind that these are not the entire list of vocabulary words for this lesson. At this point in the unit, we all know that volume measures the amount of space an object takes up in 3 dimensions. In a rectangular prism, we use length, width, and height to determine volume. The lesson today will ask us to determine the volume of complex shapes. This figure is a composite solid. If you look carefully, you will see that it is actually made of 2 rectangular prisms placed next to each other. If we decompose or separate the 2 prisms and find their smaller volumes, we can add them together to find the volume of the larger figure. Reminder that the formula for finding the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. Starting with the blue prism, we identify its length, then width, and height. When we multiply these together, we get 135 cubic inches. Now we will focus on the orange-ish colored prism. Be careful when looking at the length. Why is it 12 and not 15? Using your math logic, we need to subtract the length of the blue prism because we already included that measurement in the volume of the blue prism. From here, we identified the width and height. When we multiply these together, we get 180 cubic inches. The very last step is to add the 2 volumes together. We get 315 cubic inches. Here is another example of a composite solid. Remember, a good strategy is to split this figure into 2 smaller prisms. It does not matter which prism you start with. We will start with the blue prism. Using the volume formula, we need to identify some edges. Here is the length, then width, and height. When we multiply these together, we get 768 cubic inches. We repeat the same process for the other prism. Here is the length. Remember to subtract the length of the blue prism. Then width and height. When we multiply these together, we get 864 cubic inches. The last step is to add the two volumes. We get 1,632 cubic inches. Here is an example of a different composite solid. Keep in mind that prisms can be put together in many different ways. How would you split this figure into two smaller prisms? Here is one way of decomposing or separating the figure. Just for fun, let's start with the orange prism this time. Following the volume formula, find the length, then width, then height. When we multiply these together, we get 210 cubic feet. Now we do the same for the blue prism. Identify the length, then width, then height. When we multiply these together, we get 40 cubic feet. The last step is to add the two volumes. We get 250 cubic feet. Many students struggle with finding the measurement of unlabeled edges. This is especially true when one edge needs to be added to or subtracted from another edge. This is a very complex composite figure. It can be divided into several different prisms. Here, the student wants to find the volume of the smaller prism. Notice that both the width and height are not labeled. If the student forgets to subtract the height of the prism from 20, the answer is incorrect. Here is question 3 from the homework. It is asking you to find the volume of the composite solid. The first step is to divide the figure into smaller prisms. Next, we use the volume formula to find the length, width, and height of the blue prism. We multiply to get the volume. Just like we practiced, we repeat these steps with the orange prism. Look carefully for the length. Notice that the width is the same as the blue prism. The height is labeled. Then we multiply to get the volume. The last step is to add the two volumes together. We get 204 cubic inches. Here's a reminder of the learning target for today. As always, if you have additional questions or if you would like more practice, please talk to your teacher when you return to the classroom. As we continue to build this resource for students and families, any feedback that you have would be appreciated. Feel free to email with any suggestions that you may have.